Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and today I want to talk about two broken bases. The secret math behind the base has always fascinated me, mostly because I don't really know if there is any secret math behind it. There are general patterns, though, such as the fact that most bases have a 2-point split between first and second. But in the core set, there were two bases that deviated in massive ways, and I have to say that over time, I've really soured on both of these. If you know the core set well, you know exactly which two: Rhodes Plaza Mall and Factory 4361337. Both have variable scoring mechanisms, the former offering points for quantity of minions and the latter for quality. What makes them broken? It's not just that they provide an extreme advantage in terms of VP. What makes them broken to me is that, for both bases, I have won games where I have gotten all 15 points I need from that base alone, and I remain firmly convinced that that should never happen. It makes those bases fairly dominant, like nothing else matters, and if you have a combo that can exploit one of the two, not much can be done. But the question is, which is more broken? Right now, I honestly don't know, so I'm going to form this video around my initial thoughts, stream of consciousness style, because there are simply too many combinations to consider. So anything that I examine for this video is me purely reacting to things off the top of my head. There could be better examples, but these are my instincts. Let's start with the breakpoints, 24 and 25, both of which are high. The fact that they are high means that you have considerable time to set up your shenanigans. It also affects the floor. If you fail to get the maximum payoff, there is still room for a decent return on investment. For the factory, with a breakpoint of 25, you could see a 13 to 12 split. 13 power would be 2 victory points, so at worst it becomes a 4-2 base, since only the winner gets the benefit. It's not hard to get at least 15 power, since 15 power is typically a level that wins most base regardless of VP rewards, which would make it 5-2, and anything above that would be extra. My highest power on that base was steampunk robots, and I'm really mad at myself because if I were truly paying attention, I could have done more. Granted, there are infinite power combos, but those tend to be banned or routed out. But in this particular game, I had the benefit of the Homeworld and the Factory out at the same time. The key is to intentionally discard Rotary Slug Thrower. Suppose there is a Fixer and a Nuke Bot with aggro motive on the Factory. That's 2 plus 5 plus 5 for 12 power. 13 away, which is decent power creep, but not a given. I've got a Zeppelin on Homeworld and a full hand. On my turn, I play the second Fixer on Factory, then the Mechanic on Homeworld, who plays Rotary Slug Thrower from the discard pile onto Factory. Homeworld gives you extra plays, which are Captain Ahabs on Homeworld and Zapbots on Factory. Ahabs can move themselves over to Factory. Zeppelin can move the Mechanic over. At some point, you will have a ton of minions there for Tech Center, which will help you draw more Ahabs and more Zapbots, with Zapbots resulting in a Terminal Alpha to send things into overdrive. Between the 2 power of Rotary Slug Thrower and the 2 power of Fixers, all 4 Zapbots and all 4 Ahabs are 6 power each. If you hit all of this, by my math, you would have 97 power. I didn't play this one well, and I had to settle for something in the 80s, but that's still 18 VP. And if you had another Zeppelin on another base, an 8 power Warbot could push you over 100. And if you look at the setup, I did not do a whole lot from turn to turn to do that. Technically, Fixer and Nukebot could be played on one turn, a Zeppelin on another. Outside of card quantity, because the intentional discard is key, the third turn could be the big play. For a non-repeatable loop, that's pretty insane. But let's look at something more easily attainable with a classic combo like Robot Horses. A Fixer to start the turn, followed by C-Star, followed by 4 Zapbots, ending in an Alpha, then Super Future Space Armor Power for 14 extra power. Fixer is a 2, giving 5 power to everyone but Alpha. Alpha gets 1 from Fixer and 6 from minions, so he's an 8. That's 40 power in one turn, plus whatever you had previously, which is 10 VP at a minimum, and this is really easy to do. Now let's look at exploiting Rhodes Plaza Mall. The average minion power is 3, but Swarm factions tend to have more 2s, so we'll use 2 as a baseline. That means that there is space for 12 minions before breaking, although nothing stops you from overkill. My highest Rhodes Plaza Mall play that I can recall used Trickster Aliens. Again, The secret MVP here is Homeworld, which is also a broken base, but it had 2 Enshrouding Mists. But Leprechaun was also there for crowd control. Leprechaun effectively shut down Homeworld's ability because any chain 2s would just be destroyed. So Enshrouding Mist could play extra minions and allow gnomes to kick off my opponent to keep the power down while keeping my quantity up. On the final turn, I could get 2 non-2 power minions while using Homeworld for all the 2s I had queued up. Because both king minions were either in play or in the discard pile, I knew that no one could get past Leprechaun, so I could comfortably inch closer to Homeworld's breakpoint. With a full hand of 2s, you can play your non-2s on Homeworld, then play all your 2s, then terraform for Rhodes Plaza Mall, and throw on another minion if you have it. With this combo, you have no card draw, so you are likely tapped out of minions. But I was able to get 15 VP from this and just kept stalling until the situation was presented. But that's a pretty high upside play. What about a more standard burst? Robot Innsmouth can have a Fixer, 4 Zapots, a Locals, and Dagon, who can play another minion, which could be another Locals. Recruitment could add 3 more Locals, whose abilities allow you to draw their own replacements. That's 10 minions fairly instantly, and the extra power from Dagon provides power to close the base and lock in the points for 10 VP. You do lose 1 point to Madness, but that point only matters at the end. This is the same 10 VP as a good hand with Robot Horses on Factory, but requires a bit more luck and deals with negative VP. Perhaps a better case is to see what my Steampunk Robots example does on Rhodes instead. There are 13 minions, and Rotary Slug Thrower and Agromotive have no effect, so it would just be 13 VP. That's still a significant difference. Of course, there are examples where it's purely about the quantity and setup. If you have 5 groupies, that's 5 points on Rhodes, but 2 points on Factory. So the bigger payout largely depends on the composition of the deck, but a few things stand out. First, Rhodes Plaza Mall tends to benefit swarm factions, which are smaller minions. Smaller minions are more destruction prone, which limits the payoff unless you play them all in one turn. This has happened to me, where an unexpected broadside blew up several locals. Rhodes only benefits from minions, whereas Factory benefits from actions and even Titans as well. If you consider the previous Dagon example, if you swap out 1 locals for Alpha, you get the same minion quantity, but now you have 45 power for 11 VP. The other part to consider is what happens when someone tries to break up your plans by rushing the base. If you have several minions as part of the setup on the Factory base, you will get 2 points at most for losing. With Rhodes Plaza Mall, you can drop 4 to stop someone who has 5 from getting more, and you are still well rewarded for your effort. It's more possible to derive comparable value from Rhodes than it is from Factory. For Factory, you basically have to tie, since the winner always gets more. So the question is, if both bases were out at the same time, which would you go for? I think, more often than not, I'd be inclined to go for Factory. Swarm is a way of obtaining power, but not every faction can swarm. However, most factions can add power in one form or another, and those actions that grant +2 can really go a long way in bonus VP, and those bonus VP arrive at levels that make it seem broken way more often than Rhodes Plaza Mall. Also, empirically, I can recall more times where I've done ridiculous things on the Factory than Rhodes, so it feels like it's more broken even then. I wanted to end with a behind-the-scenes story that highlights the things we get used to. As the examples prove, you can do crazy things on these bases. But a few sets ago, there was almost a base that had a 4-1-1 base, a base I really loved, but it got scrapped. There were complaints that the 3 VP difference was too dominant for first place, which is an odd statement considering what these bases can do. Granted, you can argue that you should not add net new brokenness, but that was hardly broken to me. It just added a good amount of tension, and you had to play it carefully. But it's funny to me how there is a recency bias to these things. While I miss that base tremendously, I would not miss either Factory or Rhodes in the slightest. What do you think of these bases? Do you enjoy them, or do you think that they are excessive? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.